Greetings, tokers, jokers, and smokers. Chef Rodney 117 is my name, and being extremely sardonic, sardonic asshole in sunglasses is my game. I like to write, cook, and smoke a lot. But what interests me the most is my insatiable interest in the universe around me, or in this case, cannabis specifically. So come join me in some meaningful conversations with some of the most influential and pioneering individuals in the cannabis industry today. Here's a look at who they are, what they do, where they come from, and why they do what they do. And then once we've learned that, we can learn where they're going to go from here. We at Daily Chronicles have created 5 W's in order for you to help figure this out. Bong hits before the show, bad idea. But who doesn't like a W now and then? Am I right? I'm right. I know I'm right. It's not about being right. So let's get right into it, y'all. This is the Daily Chronicles coming at ya. Welcome back with another episode of the Daily Chronicles. I'm the host with the most, Chef Rodney 117. What's today's topic, y'all? Today's topic is Michigan NORML. What is it? What's its purpose? Where did it come from? Things like that. With that, let me introduce today's guest. Today's guest got into cannabis advocacy in October of 2007 when polling that the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act had a strong likelihood of passage. Then located Michigan group, a Michigan NORML group and a splinter group that was starting to form that later became the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association, or the Triple MA, as people would refer to it as. He worked with that same board of directors in the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association in 2008. Fast forward to 2014, he was asked to join the board of directors for Michigan NORML. Since then, he's worn many hats in the organization, from administration to member support and marketing. He's barely made any money off of this. He's literally dedicated his life to trying to turn things around from something that should have never been made illegal anyways. All the while, people are in the, are owning, certain patents to this thing and still continuing to use it unbeknownst to anything they're letting us see. I mean, I don't know if passion or pleasure drives him, but we're going to find out, y'all. Here he is, the man, the legend himself, my homie, BRAD FORRESTER. Brad, welcome to the show. How you doing, bud?
Excellent, Chef Rodney. How are you? I'll tell you.
I'm good, man. It's like I was saying earlier, bong tokes before the show, maybe not the best idea, but we got through it. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'll tell you. I'm happy to be on this show. I really like the concept for your show. Deliciously dope. I mean, stoners and food. Yeah. What a better combination can you get? Maybe throw in some sex, I guess.
I mean, it's all about, at the end of the day, the sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but we don't talk about what we kind of, the added ingredient to that rock star lifestyle is. That's the thing, y'all. Like, I've seen some shit that's okay. I've seen some shit as a chef. I'm just going to say that. It's not what the show's about. But at the same time, I to get away from that shit, been in those situations, I started drinking really heavily. And cannabis saved my life, real talk. And that's what it is. And so from, stories of like that, I advocate these things, and dude, I appreciate it, man, seriously. But at the same time, I got to kick it back to you though, man, because like real talk, without you and some of the other OGs here and, the murder mitten, as we succinctly call it, we wouldn't be able to, blaze up right now on camera or, go to certain specific towns and light up and stuff. That wouldn't have been a thing, man. So dude, thank you. It's the least I can do, really.
Well, I appreciate it. And I'll admit, I have been a bit player in this Shakespearean drama called legalization in Michigan. But my part has been very small. And my time here, I've been doing this, 14 years. There are people that have been in this movement over 30, 40 years. I mean, those are the shoulders, the giants that I'm standing on. So, I appreciate your praise, but as much as that means to me, I'm still humbled by the people that came before me and that really did the heavy lifting.
Oh, absolutely. We'll never truly know how it is to feel when Atlas shrugs, if you will, to know the weight of the world is on the shoulder there. What I do know is that when my shoulder's hurting, I'm going to smoke weed. So we're just going to, you know what I mean? So that works out. Just so happened to light this burning bush on fire, man. And it's working out, right? But no, yeah, like you're saying, Hash Bash, y'all, for those of you who don't know, just celebrated its 50th year. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that makes it like one of the longest standing cannabis, like protests and like, gatherings, I think, in the world. They're world renowned. Hash Bash is world renowned. You know what I'm saying?
I think it is the oldest cannabis oriented protest or event,
smoking, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Because it really has evolved over the years. I mean, the first year you had a couple hundred people that were pissed off about John Sinclair's arrest and getting 10 years in prison for, selling a cop two joints.
Right.
So, but since then, this thing has grown much beyond that. We've got street fair now. We've got a Hash Bash weekend, really, because events start, Tuesday or Wednesday and go right through Sunday night.
Right. I mean, they used to with COVID. That's changed things a lot, but at the same time,
back though.
Correct. You're never going to stop it. That's where I was going to go. That's the point of it. Once more people become vaccinated and social distancing, once we fucking start doing things right, quote unquote, that's when, it's going to come back. You want these things. Unfortunately, because of our neglect in the past, with COVID regulations and things of that nature, we have to deal with it now. So that's where it's at. This could have been done, and over with a while ago, but some people
I hate to cut you off, but I think that's a very important point. And I think this is where the stoner crowd can really prove themselves to the mainstream world, that we are responsible. We're not just guys sitting on the couch and eating a bag of chips and smoking a bag of weed.
We're also not above that.
Well, that's right. That's true too. But, we have ambitions, we have goals, we have desires. I mean, look at the thriving cannabis industry in this state right now.
Oh, yeah.
You got so many people in it, so many people that want to get in it. It's just, we have a great opportunity here. And, Hash Bash has evolved to encompass much more than John and his 10 for 2. But he is the root, man. He is the root of why we are doing this.
Absolutely. It's interesting because people are like, well, what's 10 for 2? Are you serious right now? And they're like, okay, so what's that mean? I was like, all right, so if it's $10 for 2 of them, how many do you get if you give a person $20? And they're like, nuh-uh. And I'm like, yeah. And then I walked away. They're like, shut up. Did you know? I was like, I'm the one who fucking told you. You know what I mean? It's interesting to watch that happen nowadays. And with all due respect, that leads me to a very simple point that I was getting at, and that's people are stupid. That's really what it comes down to. And that's I smoke weed to nature. That. This is true. It's also true in lemmings too, but how far we derive from that is questionable. But what isn't questionable is the fact that we want to get to know more about you and kind of, hey, how where did you come from? You know, where are you going? You know, look at what you've done, you know, that's allowed us to be able to, you know, smoke weed and have a conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, it literally became a way of life for a lot of people during, you know, COVID 2020 in isolation. It's done numbers, you know, it's helped with mental health. It's helped with appetites. It's saving a planet. It really is. And then from phytoremediation in the ground, literally saving the soil, to literally curing cancer. This plant is all vast, and no one should have ever been a criminal for it, ever. But without your advocacy and you fighting in the fucking trenches, man, none of this would be possible. So I really want to get to know who you are. And what better way to get to know somebody than ask them the who, what, when, why, where, and why of, you know, what led us to that point. So if you're ready, man, we'll like cannonball straight into this shit.
Let's do this, brother.
Let's do it. All right, bong toe. Smoking the last of my Blue Dream over here.
Oh man, that sounds good.
Oh, it's a little bit drier than I wanted to, so I throw it into the bong because that really doesn't matter. But it's still got those herbal notes real quick. It's all right because I got some more Blue Dream coming up in a couple of months, anyways. In about 2 months, you'll be ready to smoke. So starting to flush here in the next couple of weeks. So I'm excited, but it's also a sad moment because I'm literally going to smoke through the rest of my Blue Dream today. But it is what it is.
That's
all right, man. The first section with the W's, the gauntlet, walking through the fire's hell, although no one's ever been killed doing so. First time W's, all about your first time with cannabis. Who, what, when, where, and why. Mr. Forrester, who was the first person you smoked weed with?
Well, the first time I ever got high, I didn't even smoke weed. I think I was 12 years old, and it was near Christmas time. And I had a cousin that was going to the shopping mall. So, you know, I asked him if I could tag along. And he said, sure, no problem. And him and his girlfriend came and picked me up at my home, and we went off to the mall. Well, on the way to the mall, they smoked like 4 joints, man. And for somebody who'd never smoked before, sitting in a car with people, the windows up. I mean, they never rolled the windows down.
They turned the wipers on to see out the window.
It literally was a Cheech and Chong type deal. I swear to God, God is my witness. But I didn't even smoke. But I got so fucking ripped, and I got home, and my parents knew something was up. And, you know, I didn't say nothing. I mean, I wasn't going to snitch out my cousin.
Right.
But that was really the first time that I got high. And after that, I kind of snuck over to my cousin's house, and I pinched a little bit out of his bag, and I went and rustled up one of my buddies that had smoked it before. And, you know, that was really my first time socially smoking with anybody.
Okay. That actually leads us to our second question. First time W's. Who, what, when, where, and why? What was the first thing you smoked? Was it like a bong? You said it was a little bit of that.
Yeah, we smoked a joint.
Okay.
You know, my cousins in the car were smoking joints, and you know, that's all I knew. That's all I had saw. Okay. So I pinched a little out of his bag, like I said. He lived at my grandfather's house, and my grandfather smoked like a fiend, and he rolled his own cigarettes. So I took a couple of his rolling papers. Okay. And me and my buddy rolled that shit up, and you know, that was really the first time I got high with somebody socially, you know, earnestly, that I was participating willingly and happy to do it, man. I mean, my first experience in the car did not dissuade me in any way, believe me.
Oh, it's like being waterboarded with smoke at that point. You know, you're like, no, this is a good thing. You think this is torture shit.
Oh,
when are you guys going to stop tickling me? First time W's, who, what, when, where, and why. When, you know, what age did you say that was the first time smoking?
Yeah, I was young. I was like 12 years old. And I really didn't even know what weed was. Right. I mean, the group that I hung with, I had 2 or 3 friends back then from the neighborhood. You know, our big thing was sneaking alcohol out of our parents' liquor cabinet.
Replacing it with water?
Well, no, just drinking it straight.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we wanted to catch a buzz. But then, my cousin kind of introduced me to weed, and really, that shaped me in some ways. I mean, to this very day, I enjoy weed. I don't really touch alcohol anymore. I enjoy a good brandy occasionally with dinner. But other than that, I prefer cannabis because I get no hangover. I feel good. I sleep like a rock. I can't find anything wrong with it, really.
Yeah, no, there's this new term that I've just caught on to, and I could be incorrect in saying this, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. Because after reading the title, you can see why I didn't really want to read more into it. But they're starting to refer to smoking weed and not drinking anymore to they're referring to it as Cali sober.
Cali sober, huh?
I mean, it makes sense, but like when I think of weed, I don't think of California. I don't. You want to know why?
They known for wine?
Well, yeah, and that's my point. So it's just kind of like, wait. So hang on. If it's called Cali sober, what's really being sober about it? Some people would argue smoking isn't being sober. I mean, it is though. Like, it's a different. Until you understand what it's healing, and it's actually healing something. Once that happens for you, you're not going to understand what being sober and being a cannabis user actually is. So don't even try it. Find an ailment, seek to fix something, know that there's something wrong, and then fix it with cannabis. Then I'm sure if you were to comment, it would be different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
not you, but anybody,
No, but you're right in a couple different aspects with that. Cannabis is a recreational thing. Let's make no mistake about that.
Correct.
Having said that, I have met Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, the world's foremost researcher in cannabis. I mean, he's really the grandfather of cannabis study in the United States and Israel. And
I'd love to talk to him.
He says, whether you know it or not, you are getting medical benefit every time you smoke the cannabis. He told that to my face. So, when, the top dog tells you that, you might be partying, Brad, and having a good old time, but you're actually putting your system back in balance in some way.
Right.
That's a great thing. I mean, does alcohol do that? Maybe.
No.
I guess. Well, don't they say that a drink or two a day is actually beneficial? I've heard that. I don't know if it's true.
Okay, you tell me. Okay, so let's. I love that because you're absolutely correct on that. But they're referring to red wine. A glass or two a night's good for the blood while you're resting and digesting and da 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 da.
And it's the enzymes in the wine and some of the other things. Yeah, I get all that.
Right. Yeah, all of that makes sense, because if you think about it, check this out. And my guest on Tuesday's show, Mr. Chef Rodney, he does and check this out on YouTube. It's called Cannabis. He is a certified sommelier who talks about, from seed to sediment in wine and how the terpenes, the exact same thing in wine, are the same thing in cannabis. Funny enough, we both agree, him being, a sommelier as well, that weed should be acceptable anywhere wine is. You understand? Because wine, I could be like, hey guys, I'm wine drunk today. And you're like, oh, going on a bender, going burnt earth, something like that. That's not okay. That's not how you handle your shit. And then almost immediately, a couple days later, in the whole drama mix, you see them post on social media after their wino bender or whatever have you, or going scorched earth or some shit, that they're like, oh, now I'm in recovery. No shit. You could have skipped all that and just smoked a joint and been fine-ish. I say that in a joking manner, very sarcastically, but at the same time, that is how it happens.
People can abuse cannabis. I mean, it's like anything else. People abuse alcohol, soda pop, sex, religion. You name the topic, and people abuse it.
Oh yeah, especially chronic masturbation. Nobody ever wants to. They'd be like, "Yeah, I'm a chronic masturbator." No, you don't see that kind of shit.
Right.
They don't have time to raise their hand. They're already using it. The point is, like, it's kind of like, that's what I'm saying. We live in a nation where we have created taboo things, And unfortunately, cannabis has been one of those things. And so we're discovering these new things by reaching back to people such as yourself, people, John Sinclair, and the people who kept moving this forward, man. Like it or not, you're a pioneer in this. And I know you know that already, but I have to say that for people who don't know, and I'm learning more and more. And as I learn more and more, I see that it's just people, that have been helped by this plant like me, who believe in a thing called love. I don't know. Great song. Point is, we learn these things, with the who, what, when, where, and why. And looking at things logically, that's how I operate, and when I look at the first time W's, I start painting this illustration of where you were in your first time with cannabis. And it's a little bit of a reminiscence, walk down memory lane for the guest on the show. I absolutely love that. Speaking of loving that, to get my ass back on track, first time W's, man. Who, what, when, where, and why? When was your first time smoking a left-handed cigarette? We were talking about you stole it from, I believe you said it was your cousin with your friend and stuff. Where were you when you first smoked the electric lettuce? So that joint, where were you at?
All right, man. I lived in a little subdivision in the city of Plymouth. Actually, not in the city. I lived in Plymouth Township. Okay. And I rode my bicycle to my buddy's house. He lived 2 dirt roads over. And then we rode up to a place called Bayer Drugs. It was a Rexall drugstore. On Ann Arbor Road?
I know where that's at, yeah. Yeah, I know exactly where that was.
Right behind the chicken place. What a famous recipe. Yep. We went behind Rexall, and there's Tonquish Creek that runs back there. We sat on the creek bank and smoked that joint. That was the first time. That was the first place.
That's some like, oh brother, where art thou shit. You understand? Like that whole golden, majestic background with the sun just so setting. And as the sun goes down, the red in your eyes goes up and you're like, hey, you know what I mean? I love that. I love that. That's why we do it, to paint pictures like that, man. You know what I'm saying? If you can't look back in that iconic, scene in your life and go, that's why,
Yeah, I'm just blessed. I'm blessed to be able to remember it at this point. Let me tell you, I know a lot of people that are getting to be my age and maybe a little bit older, having trouble with a lot of their older memories.
Do you think that's because of cannabis usage, though?
No, I don't. I think it's, due to, people getting more Alzheimer's, dementia. Yeah. And what that's due to, I have no idea. It's a very complicated disease. And it was a disease that my mother passed away from. So,
oh man, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it happens, man. It happens. She was loved. She got taken care of, and she passed away in her own home. I mean, we should all be so lucky.
Mm-hmm. So, suffice to say, my mom, same thing. She had cancer a couple of times. What eventually ended up, taking her was her COPD, which is interesting because. They say with COPD, don't smoke weed. Well, my mom used to smoke weed like a fiend. And I would always notice when my mom had weed or good weed and she was smoking weed because she felt better. She didn't have to be on her oxygen tank, while doing things. She was up and around, and she never figured it out. Never. Because terpenes weren't a thing. What it was like, oh, this is like, my mom grew up with like dirt weed. Okay. You know what I mean? The shit that would be, it was crinkled up in a bag
from Mexico.
Exactly. It was grown in a basement somewhere. It was very hush hush, but if you got inside the kitchen and the owner knew about it, because 9 times out of 10, the owner of the kitchen's buying weed as well. You know what I mean? It's a whole different story. So I've done a lot of exchanging of hands in the back of kitchens. I'm not going to lie to you. But at the same time, you can't get mad at me because it was one of the owner's friends. Feel me? So it's like, yeah. Was it right to do? No. Was it weed? Yes. You know what I mean? So I made a lot of high fives back then, if you know what I'm saying. But it's not about what I'm saying. It's about what you're saying, Brad. And to tie up the first time W's in a neat little bow, who, what, when, where, and why? Why did you choose to smoke in that scenic image on the creek, that joint, that day?
Well, I don't know because probably because the weekend before was when my cousin, took me
Smoke pot, right?
shopping.
Took you shop.
So,
There you go.
man, all I knew is I wanted to try that shit again. It was that cool. It was that good of an
Mhm.
experience for me. And I know that I was fortunate, perhaps, because I know that some people's first experience is not so
No.
good.
Some people don't get high.
Well, the weed is a little stronger these days.
Yeah.
I've grown pot and I've smoked with people and watched them, throw up
Mhm.
because the THC content in weed these days is
It's
a
insane.
lot higher than the brick weed that we grew up with in high school.
Mhm.
So, I see it has that effect on some people, and people who start off with edibles or
Oh, no.
capsules in any way.
Yep.
I've seen a lot of bad experiences that way. So people always, you need to know, start off small. You can always get big.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on from that, because that was terrible, but it was perfectly placed. So it's interesting you should say that, because more to that. So from a chef's perspective, it's all about ingredients. Okay, we need to know. Hey, chef, how would you dose this out, and how would you do that? How do you do this? See, nobody really gives a shit. But the point is, it's all about who can do it better. What looks good. Stop. We're not when no one's looking at it from the right way, from the terpene perspective. Okay, no one's looking at it medicinally. They're like, "Yo, how much can I jam into this apple pie to get me fucked up? Yo, 30,000 grams. Let's do it." You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's my point. They're overdosing themselves. Where like it's not. That's not. Stop. You know what I mean? That's like adding salt or way too much sugar to stuff, which we've done too. So there's that. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
From a chest perspective, I'm telling you, right here's the golden. This is where I would start. And you can go from, but this is like my middle of the road dosage that I tell everybody. Hell, I'm getting to the point to where I'm repeating this almost hourly. I'm gonna let you know. 100 milligrams of CBD with 10 milligrams of THC. If you put that in your food, you are going to have a fucking great time. That's going to give you just enough CBD to chill you out. You see what I'm saying? To take the edge off of the THC for the psychoactive. Because here's the thing. When eating something, there's terpenes in stuff that get covered up by other smells. Fact. Ingredients do get covered up. Fact. But sometimes it's the after consumption that we're worried about. Well, what's that? Any nutritionalist will tell you what's absorbed by the body, X, Y, and Z. That's just fucking science. That being said, your body has the ability to absorb more terpenes if they're inside of that medium, ergo, in this case, brownies, okay? So that'll put you more of a psychedelic effect. So if you, and then that's what happens. People, they'll drink 3,000 milligrams or something and have this, huge, that's what happens. You understand? Or they'll just conk out. People are different. That's not good. What's the point of being high if you're not awake to enjoy it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I've worked it out. I've put in suckers, I've put in brownies, gummies, the whole nine. 100 milligrams of CBD, 10 milligrams of THC. You see what I'm saying? Boom. I love going on hikes. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, now my fat ass is walking around everywhere smoking joints. But that'll allow you to keep smoking and enjoy your day, but kind of tinging it a little bit and taking away from like the fear, the anxiety. So if you take the anxiety out, then boom, what are you left with? A decent amount of happiness.
Yeah, and honestly, do you put the same dosage in every meal you prepare, or would you kind of tailor the dosage depending on what's being served? Because as I understand it, some foods enhance the ability of cannabis and some diminish the ability.
Correct. So you're absolutely right. So some terpenes work together and some terpenes, work apart. There's some polarity with terpenes. That's a term that you're not going to hear, but I said it. So here we go. Polarity with terpenes means this. Think with magnets, north and south, they kind of, they'll attract. North and north, they'll repel. So that's kind of what happens. For example, if you eat something like a mango sorbet while you're smoking a strain heavy in myrcene, you're gonna get even more elevated. That's why, because myrcene, they don't knock each other out. Those compound. Whereas if you're eating something like with pinene in it, you're going to smell the pinene before you would the myrcene. That's my point. So if you're eating something with pinene in it and you smoke some myrcene, you're probably not going to get as much of the effects of the myrcene because of the potency of the pinene in what you're eating. So you really have to, as a chef, sorry, we kind of went on with this, but as a chef, you have to really control the entire experience and the atmosphere down to the fucking weather for that meal that's infused to taste right. So many people are like, yo, we're doing it in this abandoned warehouse, or we're doing it on this river, or in this mansion, or at this party. Yeah, that's great, but who's going to fucking remember that? Well, everybody. It's going out everywhere. Why? You understand? Like, if I tell you that, yo, on April 16th or something, I'm doing this dinner and it's going to be sunny, it's going to be, the forecast is this, and I set the picture for you, you're going to be like, take my money. You know what I mean? Shit. That's
happily take my money.
But that's my point, though. It's an experience.
Right. A good experience, not just an experience.
Exactly. You know, and we're bringing back cannabis and culture, and that's how you do it. You know, you've got competition shows. It's not a competition. Cannabis and cooking should never be a competition. Not the point, though. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They exist. They have their place. That's fine. Will I ever be on one? Fuck no. End of story. If I wanted to go competitively cooking, I could have done so. It's not my jam. It's not my jam. What is my jam, though, is some favorites of my, I call them cannabis constituents, if you will. That leads us to our next section of W's, man. If you're ready, Mr. Forrester, we can dive right into the favorite W's, who, what, when, where, and why.
Let's knock the shit out of this, man.
Let's do it. All right, Bubba. My favorite W's, who, what, when, where, and why. Mr. Forrester, who was your favorite person to smoke weed with?
Favorite person to smoke
I still have to convince people
Wow.
that I'm not fishing with that question. Like, you can't say me like that. You can't do that. No. Some people have like, I felt bad not saying you
together yet, Rodney.
Well, that's right. Exactly. That's what I was just like, no, we have, okay. You know, but no, who's your favorite person to smoke with?
I guess I'm going to be ambiguous and say whoever is there at the time. I mean, I'm not bashful. I'll smoke with anybody. You can be a politician, a cop, or a preacher. And if you wanted to light up a bowl, or you could, I've smoked with homeless people. Yeah. I don't give a shit who you are. If you want to smoke weed, that's the bond. That's the commonality that you and I share. Mm-hmm. We may not agree on anything else in the whole fucking world, but we agree on cannabis. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's enough. That's enough. I share a commonality with you. Great. You're entitled to your life. I'm entitled to mine.
I don't think that it could have been more like fucking hammer on the nail. That's just nail on the head, if you want to call it that. But that's what it is. Like, we need to get to a point in society, and cannabis allows for this to happen much easier than, let's say, alcohol. We need to be able to disagree and still walk away being friends and respecting each other. That's the point of unity. If we were all the same, that's not unity. You know what I'm saying? That's just it is what it is. But to me, that's not unity. Okay. If I had to pick from, let's say I had two options, 100 people that were all wearing blue in this picture and 100 people that were wearing rainbow. Well, I'm going to feel that I get more for my money with the diversity of colors. Just saying.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of what we do, and with, like I said, man, and it's exactly to your point.
Well, and that's
cannabis makes it so much easier.
That's the beauty of our community. Yeah. We are everybody, every segment of society. Somebody in that segment smokes cannabis. Oh, yeah. So, I think, people like to pigeonhole, outspoken pot smokers as stoners or hippies or, whatever they like to call us. Right. Personally, I like to be called a stoner. That doesn't bother me a bit. Yeah. It's better than calling me an asshole, and I've been called that many times. So
I had to earn that title.
well, I've earned it, I'm sure. So, but you know, that's part of the growth of all of us. So
that's just being fucking human nowadays.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You know, and that's my point. Like, that's why we did the who, what, when, where, and why. Because if we're not specific about things, people can be like, "You're an asshole," but that's not what I said. You know what I mean? That's your perception of me, which is a perception of you, dude. Like project. So it's like maybe if you weren't, you know, pedantic in everything that you do, you could probably understand there's more than one side. That's exactly what I say to people. You know what I mean? And that usually just,
you know, I think, well, I think a lot of people have trouble relating to people that they've never had to walk in their shoes. Like I would have a hard time relating to Donald Trump or any million or billionaire with that kind of money. I mean, I've been to Las Vegas and I've seen all that cool shit, but to really have to manage that money, you know, that's a whole different task. So I respect anybody who does that. Now, I don't agree with you for doing it. I don't think anybody should have, you know, too much, but you know, again,
I think there should be like a bar where like if you just win the, you know, you just win. You can't go above that. That's it. Well, you win. Game over.
It would be nice, but how do you tell somebody to stop? I mean, now you're infringing in a different way.
I mean, they're telling us what we can't have when we don't have money. So there's that.
That's true.
You know, I mean, it's, you know, then you go, well, how much is a person's pride worth these days? You know, and then you see what I'm saying? Come on. if you I love scrolling through TikToks and through Instagrams with people do funny shit. I think that shit's hilarious. It's great. I love it. It's like Vine. I miss Vine. I love, you know, that 15 seconds, that 20 seconds. I love that. The comedy is really good, you know, and some things. But then there's other things where like people are just like, I was born to be Instagram famous. No. When you were born Instagram, no. I mean, it's, you know what I mean?
I gotta admit, I'm Instagram challenged personally.
Then ignorance is bliss at this point. No, you're
well, you know, but that's why I love coming on shows like yours, where you know there's a younger, hipper crowd. I mean, you guys are going to do things your way, and the future is yours to manage. But it's important that you hear from the old timers like me, and to be reminded that even old timers like me stood on the shoulders of other old timers. This has been going on in Michigan since the 1970s, at least, probably before that. I mean, I'm sure there were people who weren't happy with pot laws in the 60s. I just don't know. You know, there's the White Panthers that were based in Ann Arbor, and some of those guys were around in the 60s. But, you know, before that, you know, if you raised too much of a ruckus because you weren't happy about the way that you were being treated, you know, they'd send guys to your house and they'd bust your head and they'd burn your house down. You know, that was the 50s and the early 60s.
That's like some fucking, you know, sadistic John Gotti bullshit. But at the same time, that's how it happened.
And it's true. I mean, a lot of bad shit happened.
Not to like it's hilarious because I can tell you this, and for those of you who know, I have a family member obviously in my family, a close family member of mine whose job it used to be to do that. He was hired muscle, you know. He loved to fight. You get the idea.
I knew guys.
Right. We all knew that person in the family. And it's like, but at the same time, they never partook. They just like, yo, I'm a mercenary. You're like, I'm good at what I do and the money is good and I can get a few drinks in, you know, smoke too if I wanted, you know, but they didn't smoke weed. So, you know, so it's like, it worked out great for that person. And then they went on to do a successful, you know, other job. I was like, well, hell, where's money at? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what we had to look up to. So it's interesting that you should say that because like having that as like a second monitor of life, if you will, for someone, a millennial such as myself, like that's helpful. That's really helpful to know. Cause it's like at the end of the day, just beat people up. I'm joking. No, but you know, But that's my point. Like, you could see that change. You know, you hear a lot about like Oprah was her first, you know, news anchor job. They said she wasn't fit for TV and they cashed her down. You know what I'm saying? Like Stephen King didn't, you know, he wasn't born for Instagram. You see what I'm saying here?
Yeah, oh,
Like,
absolutely.
I think that person's going to go on to become a manager of Hardee's or something. And then she's going to go, well, my Instagram, you know, I got banned or just something. She'll blame other people when really the issue is inside. However, if being Instagram famous is your dream, don't let me stop you. Do you, girl? You know what I'm saying? But I think that you might want to take a look at the way you're doing it, because you claim to be married. And I'm pretty sure if Homeboy saw those pictures, he won't be too happy. That's what I'm saying. Like,
we don't want to
shit.
We don't want to discourage anybody from chasing their dreams.
No.
But you know,
just make sure your dreams aren't somebody else's nightmare.
Well, that and make sure you understand the reality of what you're chasing. A lot of people chase something that's a vision in their mind, and that vision is not reality. You know, it's something that you see on the surface. When you look inside or deeper beneath the surface, it's much more complex. It's very difficult. It's hard. You need specialized talents. You know, there's much more to it than meets the eye in a lot of cases.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But what's more entertaining to the eye than knowing someone's favorite things? Jumping right back into it. No, we're all right. I'm the same way, man. That's why I was like, ah, shit. But I got my producer over here flashing that light. So that's always fun.
Let's do it, brother.
Before I lose my job. Favorite W's, Mr. Forrester, who, what, when, where, and why. What is your favorite way to consume cannabis?
Yeah, I'm a flower guy, definitely. And I prefer joints.
Okay. I hear that a lot.
Yeah, I usually it's me smoking by myself. Right now, I am a caregiver for my father, so it's just me and him. We live in a little house at the end of a dirt road out in the woods, and so you know, for me to roll a bunch of joints, I don't want to stay too stoned and stupid all day.
Right.
So I've got a pipe that a friend gave me. I'll show it to you here.
Oh, look at that. That's made out of silver, isn't it?
Sterling silver.
Yeah.
I posted a picture of it in Hash Bash.
Yeah.
And
neat as shit.
But it, you know, it was made for me over 25 years ago, and it works very well. And I do a toke now and then, and you know, it satisfies all my my issues. And I'll disclose that I do have diverticulitis. The cannabis works very, very well at relieving the cramps and the nausea that I experience. Can I chime
in with that and show you my chef knowledge about it? So what I'm about to recite proves to all the customers we ever told no to because of whatever dietary restrictions they may or may not claim to have. Diverticulitis is basically an inflammation of the colon and in the intestines where you can't eat small nuts or grains, breads, you know, things like that, rices, small shit like that, because it can get stuck and cause inflammation inside the intestines and the colon. That being said, that's very, 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 it's not going to feel good. You understand? A lot of people have, you know, that leads to infections and polyps and, you know, numerous colonoscopies, which, let's face it, I don't care. I don't care what you do on your OnlyFans. That's fine. But there's only so many, you know, feet. Things should go up in there. If that's your thing, that's your thing.
6 feet of rubber hose, brother. Right. Exactly. Up like, come on. They don't even buy you dinner when they're
no. Like I dude, when I got one a few years ago, because you got to get one, you know, it is what it is. And your friends make fun of you. You're spending the whole night in the toilet before shitting it out. The point is, I walked out of there still fucked up from whatever they gave me. And I'm waving around them going, hey, who wants to see my tunnel of love pictures? That was the funniest thing ever. Doctors are like, he's the 50th person to say that this week. You know, I'm just like, come on, it's just funny. But
it is.
But, you know, here's the thing. If we understand that these things are, you know, that are being fixed by cannabis, it makes sense, you know. So similar to Crohn's, similar, you know, to a lot of digestive issues, IBS, and the like. Diverticulitis basically means you can't have nuts, grains, you know, anything that's really like quinoa. Don't do it. You know what I mean? Don't do it. As much as you would want to, don't do it.
And it's not just the nuts and the grains. I have trouble with spaghetti sauce in particular.
The acids?
The acid. I still eat pizza once a month, or spaghetti once a month, or maybe both once a month. I'm not going to give up everything, but I at least understand now what's causing the pain. And I moderate my cannabis use a little bit. You know, I'm sitting on a bunch of hash. So if I need something stronger than flour, I can smoke a little hash or sprinkle it right on top of my dinner.
What if I could give you some chef trade secrets to make your spaghetti sauce a little bit less acidic so you can enjoy it?
Add sugar?
Sugar, brown sugar, and butter. If you take brown sugar, if you do brown sugar, butter, pepper, and an anchovy, and let it sit and cook and simmer all day with your garlics and everything, it's all going to be pureed anyway, so it doesn't matter. But let that simmer with the basil and everything like that, you know, tomatoes, the whole nine, and then, you know, blitz, cook it like you normally would, like you fucking should. Take your time.
Right.
Okay. If you added a little butter to that, you know, to bring it together, if you will, and then you added some sugar for the butter to kind of bind to in there, I'm telling you, it's going to tone out that acidicness. You understand? Not to mention, here's the best part. You ready for the best part? I haven't even told you the best part. Squeeze out your tomatoes before you throw them in. Get the guts out. The guts are fucking what's making everything bitter. Funny story. Most of the acid tomatoes in the middle.
I start with home canned tomatoes. And what I generally do is I'll run them through a sifter, and I try to get all the seeds. But I do manage to get a lot of pulp. I like the pulp, but I think it does actually cause some of the discomfort.
It does. Yeah, and 100%. So you never want to eat the you always want to eat the flesh of the tomato, which is what it is. You never eat the inside.
Interesting.
On smaller tomatoes, it doesn't really matter because, you know, you can saute them up like, you know, with like grape tomatoes, heirloom tomatoes, like small things. And, you know, sometimes they're cut and put in salads, and it is what it is. You can eat it. That's fine. That's not going to hurt you unless you have diverticulitis in this case. But the bitterness and just like you can ruin a dish by accidentally throwing the seeds in for sure.
Absolutely.
So to save that, add an anchovy, some brown sugar, and some butter. Start with a little bit, go a long way, man. I'm telling you, it gives it like a little bit of sweetness. You know, don't go too heavy over with it. I mean, butter makes everything better. You know what I'm saying? Right. In my case, I'd make sure that's can of butter, but that's just me. That's just me. That's just me. Speaking of just me, it's not about me. It's about you. Favorite W's, bud. Who, what, when, where, and why. When do you, I think you said like just kind of all the time, really, with that little pipe you got. But when do you really most enjoy smoking weed?
You know, I have a bad habit lately of getting up early. And when I say early, I'm talking like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I've been falling asleep like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. When I fall asleep that early, I'm generally up early. I need about 5 hours of sleep.
And then it's just like, let's go. Yep.
Yeah. And so I'm up and ready to go. And the rest of the world is like dead. So
for a few hours at least. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll, you know, get on social media, see what happened that I missed over the last several hours, do a few tokes, and maybe try to crawl back into bed, get a little, couple extra winks. And then I'm ready to get back up and kick some ass for the day. Because if I don't, and I'm up that early, by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I'm looking for some place to nap out, dude. I mean,
I feel you. I feel you. Real quick question.
60. I just turned 60 last.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm not just saying this like, but you don't really look 60. You really don't.
I don't. Feel
I seriously.
60.
Well, I would have been like, you're like 55. That's what I would have said.
Well, thanks.
I mean, I'm just saying, you know.
No, and age is no big deal to me, man. I'm going to live till I die, and then it's going to be over. So
I'm also going to, it's some people confuse that with dying till they live. I mean, that is what it is, you know. That's just the way of the world. But it's always important to understand that sometimes the view from the monkey bars of an upside down world makes perfect sense to you because you know how you're upside down. And that's my point. So don't let people hate on you. They just want to turn to monkey bars. Remember that.
Right.
But I did have a quick question for you, bud. Do you grow your own cannabis?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you got going right now?
Well, excuse me. I learned from one of the guys. I'm gonna throw you a quick history lesson here, if you don't mind. I didn't learn from the guy, but I bought my supplies from the guy who really brought the marijuana movement a long, long way. And I'm going to give credit to that guy right now. And his name is Jeff Gibson.
Jeff
He
Gibson.
owned a hydroponic store that used to be on the corner of Middle Belt Road and 6 Mile. Can't remember the name of his store, but Jeff has gone on to bigger and better things. He owns Rutone. Have you ever heard of Rutone?
I think in passing somewhere I have. Yeah.
Hydrodynamics International. He owns this gigantic hydroponics company now.
Mm-hmm.
But so Jeff Gibson was one of the guys who fought federal agents and the United States government for our right to be able to smoke weed in Michigan and the rest of the country. Jeff Gibson used to own the little grow store I told you about over on Middle Belt and 6 Mile.
Mm-hmm.
And they set him up. What they did was the cops followed a bunch of people home that were buying supplies at his store. They raided those people, and then they prosecuted Jeff for some RICO bullshit because he knew he was selling them grow supplies. Jeff Gibson spent his entire fortune fighting the federal government on that issue, and he fought them for, I think, over 5 or 6 years. And he was ultimately victorious. And he is one of the gigantic heroes for every pot smoker in the country today. And he's a guy from Michigan. But anyways, I used to buy my grow supplies from him. I was an indoor grower when I first started growing. Mm-hmm. I got my first clones from a guy that was a Michigan NORML member, and he ran a chapter out of Ann Arbor. Okay. And he got me going in it, and he showed me how to grow indoors under lights. His name, for the record, was Rich Burkett. He was a MC for Hash Bash for many years. Okay. I think he organized Hash Bash for several years. And that was either before Adam Brook or maybe at some point in between, because I know that Adam did a bit.
He's incarcerated, right?
Yeah, and he was out of circulation for a while. I'm not sure exactly where Rich fit in, but that's my kind of background is, these are the cats I learned from, are the guys that fought for all these freedoms that we're enjoying today. I mean, it's humbling, dude. It really is.
Oh yeah. And and that makes it all the worthwhile why we ask you, more about, who you are as a person and get to know you a little bit. I love it, man. I love it. Where were we at? Yeah. So favorite W's, who, what, when, where, and why. We all know a place, man. Where is your favorite place to smoke weed?
Outside. And I don't care where. Just being outdoors in the sunshine with some weed and friends. Life does not get any better unless you got a little food, some music.
There you go. Set the ambiance, give it a little flavor. That's a shirt I'm coming out with. All flavors matter. You can't get mad at it. Right? You can't get mad at it because it's the truth. And I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about food. But however you want to insinuate that, it's a reflection of who you think I am as a person. Honestly, if you don't like me, then why are we talking? That's my point. That's what I'm going to say. So that's where it's at. But at the same time, you're absolutely right, dude. Setting that ambiance and creating that whole atmosphere, that's what it's like. And
that's when we think of memories, those are the things that we live for.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That and our families. I mean, the money is nice. I have kind of shunned money, but I've been taking care of my parents for 15 years. I've basically been unable to earn the type of living that I had been accustomed to before my parents got sick. You know, I was a cook. I was a publisher. I've done a lot of things. I was a chauffeur. So I've been around the block, you know, 60 years. I really should write a book because I got a lot of cool memories that, you know, they mean a lot to me, and maybe somebody else would find them, you know, just intriguing.
We all say we're writing a book, and it's interesting that you should mention writing a book, because writing has really helped me therapeutically. Really, it's very cathartic. Smoking weed, there's no real. If I was on a beach, if I'm not writing, I'm smoking weed. If I'm not smoking weed, I'm probably trying to hide from the sun, because I'm an Auburn American and I will burn just by looking at the sun. So, one of the three things. But with writing, you know, I grew up during the whole, you know, Power Ranger, Polly Pocket, and fucking Pokemon, you know, period of the 90s and thousands and stuff like that. So I was a millennial, you know, but I didn't have the typical life as a lot of these other kids. You know, it's interesting because it's like I would, you know, meet these other kids and their families and be like, dude, you've got it so much better than I do, X, Y, and Z. Like, I would always just feel left out. You know what I mean? Oh, I think our video froze on yep. Video froze. Well, these are fun. Yep. His connection dropped. He'll be right back. But you guys should definitely check out the MichiganNORML.org. It's what we need to do. You know what I'm saying? As people, we need to kind of come together and remember that, hey, listen, there's a reason that we're going forward with, you know, more legalization. You know, no one should be incarcerated for weed, especially after 2020. If you really have to ask yourself why people are still sitting in jail or stuff like that, you know, because of cannabis at this point, you kind of got to, you know, look at the privatized prison systems. That's not okay. This shit's still been around. It's still here. We got to finally do something about this. You know, for those of you who don't know, a little, you know, stone tirade a little bit. If you go back and you listen to Prison Song from System of a Down, that will explain to you what the issue is. It's interesting. A lot of people didn't know that. But if you know Serge Tonkin and you know his stance in System of a Down, you know who he is, where he is. There he is. What's going on, brother?
Hey, sorry about that,
You're
man.
all right. You're all right, man. It's all right.
I had a communication breakdown, dude.
Oh, dude, that sucks.
Can
you hear me okay now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me at all?
I can hear you. I can see you. You're good to go on my end, brother.
Okay, because when I lost my connection, I pulled my plug and my earpiece is not working right now. So I'm going to have to go from the system mic.
That'll work, man. It's coming through pretty crisp, pretty clean. I'm good with it.
Cool breeze, brother. Let's rock. Sorry.
Let's do it. No, you're all right. You're all right. We're almost done with the favorite W's, bro. Speaking of which, who, what, when, where, and why, tied up in a neat little bow, if you will. Why do you smoke weed right now?
Why do I smoke weed? I don't know. Number one, it does help, like I said, with my diverticulitis. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed it the first time I smoked it. I think I talked about that too. I think it's now become just a part of who I am. I enjoy smoking cannabis. And as long as I'm able to function on a daily basis and meet all my responsibilities and I'm not being impaired in any way, I don't see the harm in doing what I'm doing. So, you know, certainly if I was having trouble taking care of my father or not paying the bills around the house or, you know, abrogating responsibility, you know, that might be a problem. But I smoke it because I enjoy it. I think it helps me keep a balance health-wise with my mental health, my physical health. You know, it's not bad.
No, it's not. It's the exact opposite of bad. It's everything good. You know, I think that you couldn't I don't think that you could have, presented that in much more of a present, than you did. Everything is on point there. How did you start? You kind of nailed that. We got a really good, scenic story on a river there for that. Your favorite things. We kind of know, if you're going to reach for something or if you're going to grow a certain title, we know what you're going to go for now, Before we get into our next part, which is the crazy W's, we got to welcome Virginia getting their legalization passed, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Following New York, that makes them what? Number, was it 16, 17, something like that?
15, 16, something.
Yeah, something
17
like that.
maybe. I'm not sure. All I know is that we were number 10.
Exactly. I mean, I love it. I love it. The point is, we're going the right way. It's sending a positive message. I think that the entire nation needs to go green, but that's just me. What do I know? You know what I mean? But it's not about me. It's about you. Quick question before we get into the crazy W's. Mr. Forrester, I tried to explain Michigan NORML when we were on our brief communications break. My words escape me. I am familiar with it, but I don't know exactly what it does. Can you help me there?
Yeah, sure. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan NORML is a cannabis consumer advocacy organization. We like to think that we're the ones who speak for consumers in Michigan because if we look at the current state of affairs here now, we have legal, medical, and adult use cannabis. And the adult use and both adult and medical use, they have licensed businesses, and those businesses have lobbyists. And those lobbyists are running around Lansing trying to, change rules, change laws, make things more favorable for them.
Based off of influence.
We like to think that, we're the guys that like to speak for the consumer and say, hold it, maybe what you're doing doesn't sound so good. So we do speak to representatives in Lansing. We have the very close ear of several representatives. And when I say we, I'm talking about not me personally, but other board of directors members for Michigan NORML.
Right.
There's a.
I figured it was as an organization, right?
Yeah, as the organization,
Yeah.
Matthew Abel and Rick Thompson and others. They engage these legislators all the time. They're friends with the Attorney General and the governor. So we are able to get some influence in. Now, unfortunately, the sphere of influence that we have right now in the legislature is small because the legislature in Michigan is dominated by the Republicans. They didn't really like anything to do with cannabis anyways. They don't really like the business side lobbyists, but they'll take their money. And, again, that's what we do is we kind of step into that space and we speak on behalf of the consumers. But fortunately, like I said, we have the ear of the governor, and she listens to what the consumer side has to say. And so it's going to be tough to get any major changes passed. And we have some friends in the legislature, like I said, Ramsey Youssef, Jeff Irwin. Those guys are definitely friends of the cannabis community and the legislature, and we communicate with them. So what we do is we just try to keep things, either where they are now or to get better for consumers. And what does that mean exactly? Well, smoking in public. Right now we are generally prohibited from smoking in public. Now we could smoke at a licensed marijuana event, even if there's a neighborhood and a church next door, but we can't really smoke in a park somewhere where there's not another person for 100 feet. So those are the kind of things that we would like to change and that we're voicing our opinion on. Other things are the adults right now in Michigan have the right to grow 12 plants. But those rights are under attack every day. And they're not just under attack from the local cannabis. Now, I won't say all the local cannabis businesses in Michigan, because some of them are very consumer friendly, but there are a handful that are very big and vertically integrated that want to control everything. And those guys, they would love nothing more than to see caregivers lose their rights. That's going to take away a large segment of the gray market and an avenue or vehicle of competition for them. So, we're fighting them. We're fighting national interests, other big players that would like to come into Michigan and run everybody out. Even the big boys that we have today, they're small potatoes compared to some of the national players. So we're guarding against that. We don't care. We know they're going to come. We can't stop them from coming to Michigan.
No.
But as long as we can maintain the right of every adult to grow their own, we have leverage against those entities. We can keep them in check. We can make them give us a better product at a better price because we have alternatives. And that is key. That is the most important thing that Michigan NORML does. Now, beyond that, one last thing, and
absolutely. I was just going to reiterate. Yeah, that's fine.
Patients and caregivers, they're enjoying some of the most liberal medical cannabis rights in the country. Those rights are under attack. Michigan NORML stands up for those people too, because at the end of the day, they are consumers, just like me, just like the vast majority of people who enjoy cannabis.
Absolutely. I mean, I was just going to, kind of sum it up like this. The takeaway from that should be this. If dispensaries want to come in and open business, that's great. Okay. But at the same time, please note that if I can't afford your $60 eighths because my back hurt, I'm just going to grow my own.
And there's a place
convenience,
for these, and there's a place for these commercial businesses.
Right.
I mean, they obviously carry products I can't make with my backyard garden. Okay. I don't have a CO2 machine here and some of that horse shit. I don't mind going there and spending a high dollar on a decent product occasionally. And that's where they fit into this equation. But if they think they're going to be the everyday supplier for everybody's smoke in Michigan, it's never going to happen. Because even if you take our grow rights away through the legislative process or the voting process or however you're going to fuck us, we're going to go back to breaking the law, and we're going to grow our weed out in the woods and in our backyards and in our basements, because we're always going to want cheap weed. That demand will not, and it's only growing, frankly, from what I see.
Yo,
I mean, look at the retail sales numbers. If
you're charging more than $35 for an eighth, you can't tell me that's highway robbery.
Yeah,
$35 an eighth. That's what you grew up, paying. That's what paying. That's what it's worth. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I'm growing $10 ounces at my house.
I mean, growing it, but that's what I'm saying. Like, black market, always 35. If you really like the person, you can work on my deal and you'll know that, but you always expect to pay $35 for an eighth. That's where that's the prices, and then you get the flood of the legal market hitting. Oh, these different strains have these different prices. No.
Top shelf. It's a top shelf.
Right. But back in my day, there wasn't any fucking shelves. It was the same shit, and then you got your, the hydroponics game. Remember when that shit hit? Then the reggies, you remember that shit? And then Dro, all of that. I remember I watched this shit happen in front of me. I watched that seed grow, and I'm just like, yo, that shit's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Like having a backseat view of the the road being traveled and the traffic on it. Who's who in what car? When have you passed me? Hey, I've repassed that thing of life. I was able to watch this in Michigan grow while growing myself, but we're not talking about that. The point is, okay, you're going to attack my grow rights as a citizen of Michigan. That's fine. I'm going to grow 3 times as much in the black market because you can't do shit about it because there's no repercussions.
Well, and I got to pay my bills.
Exactly.
Now you force me to, do something.
Exactly. The only thing that makes me a criminal at that point in time is your perception of me because I'm doing something it's not making you relevant anymore. You know what I mean? That's what
they're
people
not
get
making
pissed
any
about.
money off it.
Yeah. Or off me at that.
Right,
They'll force
right,
you to do it. Sorry. So when you come in and you tell me what I can't do on something, when I have a choice, isn't that considered, how is that not a monopolization?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's not federally legal yet. Oh, but when it is, you can't monopolize on it. Wait a minute.
That's going to be another can of worms, federal legalization. I mean, the feds are probably going to try to figure out a way to get some tax revenue off this.
Easy.
I mean, what else would their incentive be to legalize it?
That's why they're still doing it to people and still arresting people in a safe state. How the fuck is that not entrapment? Oh, but nobody wants to have that conversation yet. At the same time, that's why, you know, people such as yourself, Michigan NORML, you know, and all of the other, you know, OGs in this, that's why they do this shit. That's why they, you know, go to the, you know, these senators and you know, these publications and things like that and talk about, yo, why was this person ever arrested for 2 joints? Are you fucking kidding me?
Right.
That kid right there's got 3 ounces on him. I guarantee it. You want to know why? Because that's where I buy my weed from. But we're not ready to have that conversation yet. That's my point, you know, and in doing that, we're talking about some crazy ass shit that we've seen that's happened to us. But our next section of W's, because I've already gotten like 4 flashlights at this point. Our next set of W's talks about that crazy time when, like, yo, I was just pushed way over the edge. So if you're ready for it, man, we can just jump face first into the crazy W's.
I'm seated, brother, and I'm stoned. Let's rock.
Let's get it, baby. All right. Mr. Forrester, crazy W's, who, what, when, where, and why. Who was with you your first time when you just got way too fucking high?
Yeah, I think we kind of discussed that. That was my cousin and his girlfriend. They like I said, they smoked 4 joints on the way, but then they smoked four more on the way home. By the time I rolled out of the car, man, and even when we pulled up in my driveway, I remember opening the door and watching the cloud of smoke roll out of the fucking car. Whew. I mean, it was classic.
Low ride. I can hear it, man. I can hear it.
Well, let me tell you, my cousin was a pretty hip dude. His girlfriend Roberta, she was pretty hip too, and they were young hippies, and you know. Unfortunately, they couldn't control their lust for experimenting with drugs, and you know, took a bad turn. But both of them cleaned themselves up later in life. Turned out to be good people with good families.
Good.
Stick with the weed, man, and life will be wonderful. Yeah,
weed's all you need. There's a reason it fucking rhymes. Speaking of things that don't really rhyme with the way that we expect life to go, crazy W's, who, what, when, where, and why. What pushed you over the edge that day? Like, hotboxing may have had something to do with it, but do you think there was something else at play, or was it just way too much, way too soon?
Yeah, you know, like I said, that was my first exposure to cannabis, period. I had never seen it. Now, I'm not even sure I had heard about it, but, you know, before that day. And, you know, she pulls this joint out of her bra and, you know, lights this thing up. And, you know, I didn't know. What am I going to say?
Everybody loves a titty joint. It doesn't matter what walk of life you're at. If somebody pulls, you're still smoking it. Everybody loves a titty joint.
And I had a crush on her, too, you know. So
well, there you go.
Let's do it. As far as I was concerned. I'm 12 years old with you know, my little Woody.
Oh. You want to sit in the front seat? No. just I can't move right now. I love it, man. That's pretty fucking crazy. I love it. Speaking of crazy W's, who, what, when, where, and why. I know we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but when was this?
I'm sorry. I had a phone call come through real quick.
Oh, you're all right. I said crazy W's, who, what, when, where, and why. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but when was this?
When was it?
Yeah.
Well, I would have been 12 in 1973.
That's back in the day, man. That's definitely before my time.
That's the
So to have you
day.
rolling around hot boxing with some people, that's damn. Hats off to that, my man. Hats off to that. Crazy
When was your
W's.
first time, bro?
Oh shit. My first time. I was working in a restaurant. I was probably, it was a family-owned restaurant. I was probably like 13 or 14, and my mom knew the owners, and they were like, just give him a dish pit job, and that's exactly what I was. A busboy, and I would do prep, and like, you know, it was a family-owned restaurant, so I just kind of like, shit, like 2002, 2003.
Fuck. So I'm 30 years, a generation before. Fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a joint out in the back, like in the back. They're like, listen, smoke this, it'll make the dishes so much better. Cause it was a shit day. I remember it was Mother's Day, and there was like an omelet station and all of that crazy shit. And I was like bussing, you know, for all the stations, in addition to all the tables, in addition to trying to get prep done for the next day, just doing it all. And I was like, this fucking blows. Like, I've done some kitchen jobs and like, this sucks. And like, so I went out back to like just catch, you know, to catch a break real quick. Cause like you could, the owners didn't give a shit. They were drunk anyways. And so we went out there and I smelled something a little funky. I was like, I know. Hello, you know, like, what is that? And then so I found the source of the smell, and there was a couple of, you know, pretty attractive servers, and my buddy, one of the line cooks, and, you know, two other people that knew, like, they all knew my family, and they're like, well, no time like the present, and just straight like boom. And I was just like, oh shit. So like, that was kind of like my first time, you know what I mean, experiencing. I didn't really get high off of it because I feel I was just still running around, so the adrenaline, and I only took like half hits at that. I just wanted to seem, you know, cool. But I kind of remember like it made everything more interactive. I think everybody could tell I was high. They just kind of went with the stigma, you know what I mean? But the point is, like, it is what it is. My first time I ever got caught, now that's a better story. My dad caught me and smoked half of my joint in front of me in one like dragon hit breath, stomps it out, blows the smoke out like fucking dragon fire, and goes, that's some weak ass shit. And then 2 hours later, I find his ass just like fearing for my life for 2 hours, not leaving my room in fear that like I'm gonna, you know, get the wrath of God or whatever. Like, I leave it and I go into my kitchen, and my dad's like had the door open so long that like the light, it was just, there's water. I'm like, how? Stoned as shit, just staring into the fridge. It's like, hey, do you want to call a pizza, man? My dad's never called me man or bro. You know, I'm 16 at this. I'm like, I mean, you're buying. He's like, hell yeah. You talked to him on the phone. That's all he said. I've never felt a greater bond between my dad. I talked to my dad about this years later. Doesn't remember it.
Jeez.
Doesn't remember it all.
I remember the first time my dad caught me too.
Of course we do. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, fuck. Absolutely. What happened there? Before we dive into the crazy shit, I want to hear about that. What happened there?
So it was me and two buddies. We were at my dad's house, my house. My great grandfather lived right next door. And you know, remember, we're talking about in the 70s, the 70s. So, you know, things were different then. It was a simpler time. My grandfather raised chickens and shit, and he had a big garden next door, but he had a couple sheds he wasn't using. So me and the boys, we turned one of his sheds into a fort, man. And we drug a couch in there and cleaned things up and hung some flags. And, you know, we used to go in there and smoke and you know, try to get the neighborhood girls.
Please tell me you had the proverbial and iconic "No Girls Allowed" sign on the outside.
No, we wanted the girls in. We knew even back then that's what was.
I went full Little Rascals for a second with you, with your whole little treehouse thing. I was like, fuck yeah, man, let's do it.
So anyways, we had just got done smoking. We came out and we came back to my house. And I had this, at that time, a gigantic pipe. It looked like a Sherlock Holmes pipe. Nice. And my dad just happened to walk in. The pipe's laying there on the table. He goes, I saw you guys. I saw you coming back from Granddad's house. What were you doing over there? He says, is that what you were doing? And, you know, he's pointing at the pipe. And, you know, it's like, what are you going to do? You're busted, dude. He said, where's the rest of it? And he said, that's it. That's all of it. Well, he didn't understand when we said that there was like a 3-gram chunk of hash in the bowl. So he thought that all there was the pipe. He says, I ought to take that out in the garage and cut it in half. But take it out and get it out of here. Don't smoke that shit around here no more. And
that's not that bad. That's not that bad.
Well, he knew I was going to do it. He knew he couldn't stop me. And he didn't really, give the best example probably anyways. I mean, he liked to drink a lot of beer, but he worked hard and he was a good man. So I cut him slack. And
that's where it is with my dad. So, years later, I always asked my dad, I was like, hey, do you remember anything? He was like, no. Upon, retrospect, like looking at it, because hindsight's always 20/20, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I realized what he told me then. He goes, don't tell your mom. He believed in that so much, he fucking forgot about it. So he's just like, no, I don't remember that shit at all. If I don't remember it, it didn't happen. And I'm like, fuck it. I mean, I can't really get in trouble, and I'm sure my mom knew, but at the same time, I know my mom smoked weed because she always cooked. So it's like and you knew when my mom was going to a new job that, hey, mom's not smoking weed for a month, because she's got to pass a drug test. But let's hope she gets that job because she's not fun when she's not high. And you can always tell. You know what I'm saying? I could always tell. And it was funny because, like, her cigarette packs, I can still remember the smell of them, but they always smell different because she would stick joints in them. You know what I mean? And so I would smell them and be like, Mom's smoking weed again. That's where it was, and I'm not mad about it. What I was mad about is the fact that she would smoke a few joints, which is great. The cigarettes is usually, coffin nail that we've learned this over time. But back then I was just like, hey, I can't tell you. And it's an addiction thing, but it was the 30, and I get that, it is what it is, especially because somebody coming from the restaurant in the background. I used to smoke for 20 years. I finally started smoking joints and just replaced it and we're good, so it is what it is. But it was the 30 racks of beer that she would buy, and polish off in 2 hours and just be drunker than shit. You know what I'm saying? Like that's probably not an okay, level of alcohol consumption, but who am I to judge? I was working, doing the same thing, learning, trying to be her, you know what I'm saying? But it was just to impress them,
We got to all pick our path.
Oh, exactly. It was a crazy time, in my life, but it's not about my life. It's about yours, man. Mine's going to be written in a book and it's not going to be legible, but the point is, I'm joking. I hope it's legible. I want people to kind of see a little bit of my background, to who I am, as a person, really, where I came from. Because it's interesting, it's interesting. Crazy W's, who, what, when, where, and why. Where, you said it was in the car. Where did it take place? Like you said, it was on the way to, and I forget, it was on the way to.
So I lived in Plymouth at the time.
Right.
And my cousins picked me up. We got on Plymouth Road, and I think we were going to Westland or Wonderland. We probably hit both of those malls.
Yep.
They were out in kind of the same direction.
Right. Shopping. Right.
So, but I remember we were gone most of the day. They fed me. I was so grateful that they fed me.
You're like, we got to put some food in them. We got to put some food in them. I feel like that. Crazy W's, who, what, when, where, and why. To wrap it up in a neat little bow, the Crazy W's, Mr. Forrester, why did it happen?
Well, I like to believe that we have a creator. God,
yep.
Whatever you want to call this person. And, maybe we're not all destined to do things, but he puts us here, I think, to experience life and to grow wise. Mm-hmm. And, the why, I don't know. I smoke weed for the same reason I read about archaeology or anthropology or space, or history, because I'm curious. I'm a curious creature by nature. Mm-hmm. Cannabis sometimes allows me to focus that curiosity and to burrow so deeply into a subject, or to drown out all the noise and concentrate sometimes on things. So, I've had nothing but positive experiences with cannabis, other than being arrested a time or two.
Which, how was that
even
fun?
that wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
I'm still here today. I still got a roof. I got food. I got smoke. I got family and friends who love me.
You're healthy.
Fuck, I'm living high, dog.
There you go. There it is. That's that high life living, my homie. That's that high life living. Well, let's look at it this way. We've learned kind of where you started cannabis wise, what led you to this point. The last section of the show, man, we always round to the last little gauntlet, last part of the gauntlet, the leg, the stretch, the leg, last leg, man, the plan W's. These are some clues that are going to help us understand where you're going to go, not necessarily give it away, but help us get inside your brain a little bit more to figure out where you're going to go from here. Who doesn't like a little bit of a challenge or a little bit of a mystery? So if you're ready for it, man, we can kind of, hit this last leg of this gauntlet, bro, and talk about the plan W's, man. What do you say?
So where do I plan to go from here? Is that the question?
Oh, no, we're going to do who, what, when, where, and why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. Plan W is Mr. Forrester. Who, what, when, where, and why? Who do you wish you could smoke with, dead or alive?
Dead or alive? Wow. Smoked with a lot of people. I guess, maybe Jack Hare. I guess I'll go with, what some might consider an obvious choice. But, he's a giant in cannabis reform. I've smoked with some of his friends on the West Coast. I know a lot of his friends on the West Coast. So, maybe Jack, if I absolutely had to pick.
That's fine. That's fine. Gun to your head. We're going to go with Jack. You know what I'm saying? That's fine. I mean, who wouldn't? He's got he has this amazing strain named after him. That his life went into that cultivation. Honestly, to tell you the truth, I think that we owe a lot of what we know, cannabis wise, activist, from the botany of the plant, the whole nine, to Mr. Hara himself. So, I think that's a very admirable answer, dude. Seriously.
And if I had perhaps a second choice. I can't remember the young lady's name. She was the actress in Weeds.
Oh, yeah, I forget her name. I should go back and rewatch Weeds. I really should, because it's got a lot of pretty prominently known cannabis activists in it.
Yeah, I don't even know if she smoked weed, but I just thought she was extremely cute.
She was very good in
that role. Yeah, she was. Oh
yeah,
perfect role.
I think they should redo it. But that's just me. At least 2 people here would watch it. You know what I mean? So there's that.
Yeah, I would do.
Let's do it. Let's go with Jack, man. Let's go with Jack. Plan W is who, what, when, where, and why. What would you smoke with Mr. Jack?
I'd really like to get my hands on some old school black Nepalese hash, some good red hash. I've had some Moroccan red hash back in the 70s. That was, man, I can't even find words. Or some old school Colombian gold. I've had Acapulco gold that was as good as anything I've smoked today.
For those of you who don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, isn't Acapulco gold and Colombian gold, those are the same thing, correct? Or is there a difference?
I think they're grown in different regions, so they're perhaps different phenoms.
Right, but a lot of people refer to one or the other.
Yeah, it's a gold strain.
Yeah,
and really all that means is they laid it in the sun to dry. Who knows?
See, I didn't know that.
Is on those.
Yeah, I didn't know that. This is things that we should be talking about. So you could add gold to the strain if you is that how that works? You're like, okay, I'm gonna grow. So let's say some Blue Dream. So if I take my Blue Dream now and lay it out into the sun to dry, now it's Blue Dream gold.
Well, it'll turn gold. There's no question about it. But I'll tell you what, there's a technique to it. It's not just, from what I understand, they go out and turn it a couple times a day. I don't know how many days they leave it in the field.
Right.
but you can't let it just lay there because it will get moldy.
Yep.
But from what I understand, that's how the old school weed was made. They
makes
cut
sense.
the things, they'd leave them in the field, and they'd come out and turn them occasionally, and then they'd pick it and process it.
Yeah. 100%, dude. I fucking love it. I love it. Playing W's who, what, when, where, and why. When would you like this to take place? Like, would it be in the future? Would it be back in the day? How would you guys do it?
Honestly, I think I'm going to say the future. And
hell yeah.
I thought about it for a second, only because Jack has lived the past. I'm living the present. Neither one of us knows what's going to happen in the future. So it would be nice to have some comparison there.
Yes. To kind of like, be subjected to something you're not familiar with. And that's the point of life. That's how I know, this interview is gone over. It's why we're giving this interview so much, more time and getting to it, because that's the point of it, y'all. To touch on what we were talking about earlier, different perspectives of life. We can disagree, walk away and respect each other and still be friends. And that's cool. The point here is this. Iconically, from just that answer, I know that, you haven't taken the normal walk of life. You've went after what scares you. You've done the unknown. You're like, fuck it, let's find out. That curiosity, it all ties together. And so that's how, I'm able to know that anything you do from henceforth on, it's going to have a tinge of curiosity behind it, but it's going to be logical because you've never strayed from logic. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah, solid thinking should guide all of us. I may be wrong, and I'll admit, I know I've been wrong, and I'll be wrong again in the future. But if I use the tools that I have to make a rational, informed decision, that's the best I can do. And if I'm wrong, you have to overlook that in me, just like I will overlook it in you. Like I said, we agree on our cannabis issue. Let's keep, what we do at that level.
Right.
I mean, if you don't think that Trump's a good president and I think he's the best, let's just forget about that.
Yeah.
Because we're never going to agree.
Exactly.
Maybe we can find something else, like the sky's blue.
Right. See, it's all about finding that common ground. And it's like we were saying earlier, common ground's easier found when there's weed involved.
It's simple.
Especially when you smoke weed at common ground. Do you see what I did there, Lansing? Yes. I love it. Moving on. Sorry. We'll get through it. We're almost there. Playing W's. Who, what, when, where, and why. Everyone knows a place, Mr. Forrester. Where would you and Mr. Jack smoke? Like what place and time? Like would it be in the Romans? We've heard that. We've heard Japanese gardens. We've heard a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it'd be the future. So honestly, where in the future would I like to smoke?
Like new New York?
New York?
Like, but new, like well in the future.
I'm thinking even farther than that. If it's Jack and I with some great hash, maybe Nepal, maybe somewhere in Western China, along the Mongolian border is more appropriate.
There you go.
It doesn't have to be conventional. I like different. Like I said, I'm a seeker. So anything you can show me that's new, that's different, I want to see it. I want to know about it. You need to tell me what's going on. I like, that's just the creature I am, I guess.
I kind of see you taking like a whole Star Trek sit back a little bit. The future is out there. There's the horizon to explore, And then I see you saying the future is out there, smoke weed every day. You know what I mean? Like you added that to it. You're like, I'm gonna also add some gangster shit to this real quick.
Spaced in space, brother. That's it.
Exactly. I love it, man. I love it. Tying this up in a neat little bow of the Plan W section, Mr. Brad, who, what, when, where, and why. At the end of the day, there's always a reason to what we would do when given the chance, hypothetically or in life. Why would you smoke weed with Mr. Jack in the future on that same kind of scenic river that you began smoking weed with? Why would that happen, bud?
Well, again, I think the creator guides that stuff. He instills us with the instincts and the nature that we possess. So I'm just following what I already have. I mean, I'm 60. This dog's not going to learn. Well, I'm going to learn a lot of things, but maybe not a lot of new tricks because I've seen a lot of tricks. So,
right.
But I'll stay vigilant and just, wait. Let's see what happens. That's why I chose the future too. New things. I love it. New.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Bringing something back like that is definitely full circle. And who doesn't love things that are full circles? Not to be confused with tautologies or running in circles, but more of rectangled curves, man. I fucking love it. Dude, I can't thank you enough for your time today. I seriously can't. We ran over. I'm always going to yell at for my producer, but there's nothing normal there. It's okay. But at the same time, I felt that it was important for people to really get to know you. And what better way than, having a little sesh, bro, and kind of telling the people about who you are and what you do. Thank you for so much for what you do, man. I know it's not, you say you stood on the back of giants, but it still took balls to stand up that high. You feel me?
I hear you, brother, and I appreciate the vehicle here to relate my stories and what's happening in cannabis and kind of how I view things. Not that my opinion is worth any more than a quarter, but it's still nice.
It's worth a lot more than that. It's priceless, man. You can't monetize that. You can't.
Well, right. And what I can do and how I can be of value in the future is, I can remind people of the history, because if you forget your history, you're doomed to repeat your failures.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. Good foundation that's where history should be, is a good, solid foundation. It's where you came from. Doesn't necessarily tell you where you're going, but you're going to know where you came from. And that's part of it, man. I feel that, home is where the heart is. You'll never know where home is if you don't know where you've been.
Appreciate that, man. That's true.
Absolutely. But man, it's all about learning, about the cannabis people and pioneers around us, man. That's what we do here at the Daily Chronicles. Long-winded or not, it's all about who, what, when, where, and why. We fucking know how. But Mr. Forrester, again, thank you. Huge shout out to Michigan NORML. Go to minormal.org. Check it all out. They're there for the consumer. They're fighting for you. They've been doing this for years. Again, they're standing on the fucking shoulders of giants, y'all. Now, my tokers, my jokers, and smokers, we've reached the amazing, blazing end of this another Daily Chronicles episode. Again, one more huge shout out to Michigan NORML and my guest, Mr. Brad Forrester. Again, thank you, Brad. Thank you.
Chef Rodney, it's a pleasure being on the show.
Thank you.
And again, I like the concept here. You know your shit about the cooking, and every stoner appreciates a nice plate of food, brother.
Absolutely. Well, they're both art forms in their own feeling, if you will. But until then, my smokers, tokers, and jokers, I'm Chef Rodney 117 with Deliciously Dope's Daily Chronicles. I'll catch you all again on Tuesday, same time. You know the channel. Peace.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.